نحو مدن ذكية في منطقة الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا، وعنوان جلستنا التالية والتي يديرها المهندس حمزة سعيدي، منسق مشروعات في البرنامج الإقليمي لأمن الطاقة وتغيير المناخ في الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا، بحضور الدكتور نيكوس ديمتريوس، باحث مشارك في معهد المعلوماتية والاتصال في المركز الوطني للبحوث العلمية ديمقراطية الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا في المعهد الدولي لإدارة المياه، ودكتور غادة الدباغ، أستاذ مشارك في قسم علوم الحاسب الآلي في كلية الحاسبات وتقنية المعلومات في جامعة الملك عبد العزيز بالمملكة العربية السعودية، حاصلة على درجة البكالوريوس في علوم الكمبيوتر من كلية الهندسة في جامعة إلينوي أوربانا، كما حصلت على الدكتوراه من قسم الهندسة الإلكترونية والكهربائية في UCL المملكة المتحدة، وأستاذ منير كبارة مدير BWC في الشرق الأوسط. مدة الجلسة 50 دقيقة وآخر 5 دقائق للأسئلة. أيضاً أود التنويه أن هذه الجلسة ستتوفر مع ترجمة فورية، وعلى مستمعينا إذا أردت الترجمة الرجاء الضغط على أيقونة الترجمة على أقصى يمين أسفل الشاشة واختيار القناة الصوتية الثانية اللغة الفرنسية، وستقوم بسماع الترجمة الأوتوماتيكية من مترجمنا الفوري الدكتور محمد أبو العلا. Towards Smart Cities in the MENA region is the title of our next session, which is moderated by Engineer Hamza Saidi, Project Coordinator for the Regional Program of Energy Security and Climate Change in the Middle East and North Africa, in the presence of Dr. Nikos Demetriou, Senior Associate Researcher at the Institute of Informatics and Communications of the National Center for Scientific Research in Greece. Dr. Nusrin اللحام is the Regional Director for the Safe Wastewater Reuse Project in the Middle East and North Africa at the International Institute of Water Management. And Dr. غادة الدباغ, the Associate Professor in the Department of Computer Science at the College of Computing and Information Technology at King Abdulaziz University, Saudi Arabia. Dr. الدباغ holds a PhD from the Department of Electronic and Electrical Engineering at UCL in the United Kingdom. And finally, our last panelist is Engineer Munir Kebara, the Director of BWC in the Middle East. Duration of the session is 50 minutes, and the last 5 minutes for the question and answers. Also, I'd like to note that this session will be available with simultaneous interpretation. And for our attendees, please, if you want to hear the Arabic interpretation, please click on the translation icon on the far right bottom of the screen and choose the second audio channel, French language, and you will hear the automatic interpretation from our interpreter, Dr. Muhammad Abu al-Ala. Mike, Ustaz Hamdan.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate seeing these beautiful faces from all over the world, the Arab world. So thank you very much for joining us. I will be speaking mostly in English, but as my colleague has just said, there will be simultaneous interpretation. Everyone is watching us. Welcome those in the attendees in the Zoom channel and those over social media, either on Facebook or YouTube. Welcome, and please share your questions by the end of the presentations. My colleagues from the Arab Science Week will collect them and share them with us, and we will get your answers specifically from our panelists. For those on the Zoom, there is a dedicated Q&A button in the bottom. Please use that for your questions, not the chat room. Thank you. So again, my name is Hamza Saidi, and I'm joining you from Rabat. I'm really happy to be joined by Dr. Nikos, Dr. غادة, and also Dr. Nسرين, and my dear friend and fellow global shaper, Munir. I will basically be moderating this session, and as probably we all agree in this panel and also the attendees, the MENA region, as all over the world, the demographic is growing steadily but very fast. And also combined with the risk of climate change, this presents a lot of risks to our resources And one of the solutions to this that is no longer, it's something that is becoming now a necessity. It's no longer just something that we can brag about, that we have a smart city, but it's now something that we really have to consider seriously to manage our resources, specifically our water resources, and also move towards a more climate-friendly kind of future. For that, during the session, we will have Dr. Nikos speaking mostly on the technological part of smart cities, the combination of Internet of Things, and how this can help us really manage sustainably the nexus of water, energy, food. Following to that, Dr. Nusreen will specifically talk about how smart cities can present a solution to achieve this water, energy, food security. And last but not least, Munir will share with us success stories from the region and case studies from the region. With no further ado, since we don't have a lot of time, I will pass the microphone to my colleague, Dr. Nikos, who will present the first presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you also for the opportunity to be in this session. I hope you can hear me well and clear enough. And now I'll just share my presentation with you. So I guess it's visible.
No.
Okay, so my intervention will be related to discussing a little bit how different digital technologies, mainly Internet of Things based technologies, can address, let's say, the WEF, water, energy, food, sustainability challenges in smart cities. This presentation has been done in collaboration with my good associate, Dr. غادة. Now, first of all, let me discuss a little bit about the challenges which have already been introduced. We are going towards mega cities, which, let's say, have the largest share in the concentration of a human population. This is an increasing trend. And on the right, I have put a small sort of statistic from the UN, which shows how from 2019 to 2030, the cities will grow in Asia and Africa, which include, let's say, the MENA region. So we're going towards mega cities and also towards satellite cities around these mega cities that will, let's say, include a lot of people. So urbanization will have a steady rise, and this will actually lead to a steady rise in the WEF consumption patterns. And this, of course, inevitably will impact the natural resources and the scarcity and the quality of life. So in order to address the challenge of having sustainable, let's say, cities, where, let's say, there will be a security in, let's say, the WEF supplies, we have to use different, let's say, digital tools that are related to information collection, intelligent exploitation of this information in order, let's say, to have a more efficient resource usage and also an effective governance using these tools. And this is important for critical cases, and we all have seen this critical case with COVID-19 in order to respond to a crisis which actually puts into test a lot of resource supplies in different areas of life. Now, I just have a collection of smart city characteristics and definitions here. As you can see, they are from different sources. They all are concentrated on using data, digital platforms, and telecommunication technologies for smart solutions. To have the optimal use of interconnected information available, let's say, in order to optimize the control and optimize the use of limited resources. These solutions have to be scalable because, as we discussed, we're talking about mega cities that need a lot of, let's say, information that has to be collected from a massive, let's say, networks of sensors, etc. And also, all these have to be related to the digital transformation in all services, using clean energy, and also introducing other services as, let's say, the transport technologies, in order to have environmentally friendly choices, boosting, let's say, the sustainable economic growth. And of course, this use of technology has to be related to everything that has to do with energy, with water, as we said, smart transport, and also in terms of management and security aspects. So taking into account all these definitions, I have just bolded here everything that has to do with the digital tools and the, let's say, the platforms and telecommunication technologies. Now you can see in the next slides, I have tried to picture a little bit to depict what we talk when we talk about digital technologies for smart cities and Internet of Things, the main components of these tools. Okay, and as you can see, we talk about measurements in data. We need networks of interconnected sensors. These sensors could be mobile, could be fixed. These sensors have to communicate via different wireless access technologies towards centralized points where we have some sort of aggregation of data and also processing of data. So it's not only data, it's also the communication networks enabling the measurement collection and also digital platforms helping the processing of this data. And all this processing, of course, will drive IoT smart applications. And you can see that, of course, you can have smart, the word smart in every, let's say, aspect of life, smart cities, transport, living, buildings, energy, and health. Now, here I try to single out some key technological features that are under discussion when we talk about smart cities. First of all, we talk about sensor networks. Okay, so we have to have the collection of information and measurements. And here on the right, I have put a graphic which shows a little bit let's say, the whole procedure. You have to sense information. This information has to be sent on some sort of a backend where you have the storage, where you have the computing facilities to make decisions if required. And these decisions have to be transformed into commands back to an actuation network, either in the same location or in another location. So you have this sense, decide, act loop. And this is important in all IoT applications. Okay. Of course, different applications have different characteristics in this SDA, let's say, loop. So it's important to have wireless and wired backbone networks in order to support this sort of communication. Also, big data technologies to be able to collect all this information and exploit it in the best possible way. And here comes the key for artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. How can we, let's say, intelligently decide based on this data, analyze this data, and make swift and effective decisions for the application requirements for the application at hand. And then, of course, we also have edge computing, because all this computation cannot be done somewhere remotely. It has to be done close to where the action happens in order to have quick reaction times and support, let's say, the timeliness that is required from the different application. And also we have the elements of security. Okay, we talk about data. This data might be sensitive. This data might have to have some sort of security requirements, not to be altered or, let's say, intercepted by somebody who is not authorized. And here comes the blockchain, let's say the case of the blockchain tools that are used for secure and efficient data manipulation. And now quickly, I'm just pointing to this table on the right, where it shows different applications, let's say city monitoring, smart transport, or autonomous robotics, with their delay requirements for this SDA loop that I show on the above, and also on the actual reliability that is required. And you see how reliability may increase for different types of applications in a smart city domain. Now, let's say quickly, I'm just going to browse over this overview of IoT, let's say, applications that could be used in the different water, energy, food sectors. Probably this will be discussed in the sequel from other presentations as well. Now, for water, of course, one important thing is to measure the quality of the extracted and the desalinated water in order to have the efficient distribution to different uses, home, industry, or agriculture. And also, this gives rise to some sort of water indicator, water nexus indicators, which has to do with the consuming rates, then intensities, or the usage, let's say, procedures. Then in terms of energy, again, you have to have real-time energy management from production to end consumption to increase, let's say, the energy efficiency. Here we have smart grid technologies. Also, we have the dynamic sharing and exchange of energy among, as I say here, among vehicles or different, let's say, mobile users. in order to have the availability of public energy charging site, as well as the development of technologies to use, let's say, energy to exchange it on the move. And here, of course, we have different indicators: direct and indirect energy consumption, carbon footprint, etc. And then in terms of food, here the IoT will have to, let's say, participate in the integration of all stages of food production, distribution, and consumption. This includes also from the source, smart agriculture, food traceability, promotion in order to promote, let's say, quality of nutrition. And here you have respective, let's say, food nexus indicators, which has to do with the smart farming, let's say, indicators for periodic crop yields, food consumption patterns, water and energy that is used in order to develop, let's say, food and distribute it or consume it, or how, let's say, is used, what sort of procedures are used in waste management and recycling. And you see here why we talk about nexus, because these indicators are intertwined, are interconnected. So you cannot look at different sectors separately. This have to be looked at, let's say, in an integrated way. And this comes to my, let's say, this idea that we have here about, let's say, characterizing a sustainability loop that characterizes any smart city, where you have on the one side the digital technologies, mainly the Internet of Things in the different sectors, energy, water, and food. Of course, you need the data collection, the data sharing, and also the data processing for efficient, let's say, respective applications. Then you have to see how these, let's say, different types, different sectors, energy, food, water, can be linked in order to have this urban nexus, let's say, indicators treated as a whole. And this, of course, is related to how these, let's say, technologies can be used effectively and can be applied effectively in terms of governance, okay? Because technologies is good, but how can they be applied in a local or in a more global, let's say, framework based on the local governments, the different institutions that may be used to, provide data or provide solutions using this data. And all this, let's say, interaction between these different sectors can give you a human-centric, let's say, sustainability and resilience loop, which could also lead to a crisis response, such as we said, the COVID-19 case. So, in terms of, let's say, concluding remarks, I just wanted to stress how, let's say, the widespread digital transformation and IoT development could be used in the benefit of smart city applications. The basic thing is to use data as a means to improve well-being, okay? But it's important to see what sort of data you need to use. What characteristics do this data have? What is the timeliness of the data? How fast should, let's say, there be a decision based on this data? And this could lead to sustainability and resilience potential in the different sectors of water, energy, food, among others. Now, in terms of key challenges, of course, as I showed before, I talked about networks, I talked about, let's say, applications, and also different actors and stakeholders being involved. This requires investments. We require investments for infrastructure in order to support networks for the communication of the different sensors, and also the different networks supporting them. We also need human capital and platforms for the efficient data analysis and decision making. This is very important. It's not just gathering information, it's also making good use of it. Of course, we talk about data, as I said, data privacy and safety requirements are huge. Data ethics, not to, let's say, invade in privacy or the individual's, let's say, private and sensitive data is important. We cannot, let's say, have one solution for all in terms of data manipulation. So there have to be, and also there has to be policies for data sharing and interoperability. This is very important. It's not just a matter of having silos, let's say, gathering data. These data have to be interchanged. There has to be an interoperability between the different stakeholders to exchange the data in order to effectively use them for integrated applications. And all this, let's say, comes to the use of WEF urban nexus approach, using, let's say, all the different indicators. Some of them have been discussed, and I guess in the subsequent presentations they will be covered as well. Thank you very much. I hope I was on time.
No, thank you. You were on time, as both you and Dr. غادة had 16 minutes, so you were right on time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will just leave the discussion by the end of all presentations. So I will just give the floor to Dr. Nusreen, if that's fine. Thank you very much. And again, just a reminder to all of the attendees and everyone watching us over live, please leave your questions. There is a Q&A button for the attendees on Zoom that you can use for your questions.
مساء الخير جميعا. السلايدز واضحة؟
نعم واضحة. نعم.
تمام. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. في البداية أشكر المنظمين لأسبوع العلوم العربي على الدعوة الكريمة، وفي الحقيقة هي مبادرة تستحق كل التقدير لمساهمتها في تبسيط العلوم وإيصالها لكافة شرائح المجتمع. كما أشكر المنسقين على التنظيم الجيد لهذا الحدث. سأتكلم بالعربية. الحقيقة كانت السلايدز كلها بالإنجليزي فبذلت مجهود في ترجمتها، فسأتكلم بالعربية. وبما أننا نتكلم في أسبوع العلوم العربي وكافة أو معظم مشاهدينا يتحدثون العربية فسأتكلم بالعربية. سأبدأ من حيث انتهى زميلي بعرض نهج ترابط المياه والطاقة والغذاء كنهج حديث يعتمد على أخذ بالاعتبار التداخل والاعتماد المتبادل بين الموارد والقطاعات. يعتمد على 3 مستويات من العلاقات. المستوى الأول أن موارد المياه وموارد الطاقة والموارد الأراضي هي جزء من النظام الأيكولوجي. يعتمد تأمين المياه والغذاء والطاقة على هذه الموارد الطبيعية وخدمات النظام الأيكولوجي. وفي نفس الوقت يعتمد كل قطاع من القطاعات الثلاث على القطاعين الآخرين. فمثلا نحن نحتاج المياه في الزراعة لإنتاج الغذاء كما تتضح من هذه العلاقة. وفي نفس الوقت نحن نحتاج الطاقة لرفع المياه أو ما نسميه السولار بامبينج. أيضاً نحتاج المياه لإنتاج الطاقة الكهرومائية، ونحتاج الطاقة أيضاً في تحلية المياه. وكما تساهم الطاقة أيضاً في توفير مستلزمات الزراعة من الأسمدة والمبيدات، ويمكن من خلال إعادة استخدام المخلفات الزراعية توليد الطاقة التي نحتاج إليها. وأيضاً يمكن توليد الطاقة من إعادة استخدام المياه وإنتاج ما يدعى بالبايوفيول أو البايوغاز، وأيضاً إنتاج الأسمدة العضوية. فالمفهوم الرئيسي لهذا الترابط أو ما نطلق عليه بالإنجليزية النكسس أبروتش هو هذه العلاقات بين الموارد البيئية وبين القطاعات الثلاث المياه والطاقة والغذاء بما ينتج عليها من آثار على البيئة. ويجب وما يتطلب منا أن نفكر بتأثيرات أي قرار أو أي مشروع أو أي توجه في قطاع معين يرتبط بالغذاء أو الطاقة أو المياه بتأثيراته على القطاعين الأخريين. هذا هو المفهوم العام لنهج ترابط المياه والطاقة والغذاء. نأتي الآن للقوى الحاكمة لأمن المياه والطاقة والغذاء في المنطقة العربية. هناك عوامل حاكمة تحكم هذه العناصر الثلاث من توفر المياه والطاقة والغذاء. كما ذكر زميلي معدل النمو السكاني في المنطقة العربية يعتبر معدل مرتفع. عدد السكان متوقع أن يرتفع من 443 مليون إلى 654 مليون نسمة في عام 2050. أيضاً تتزايد وتتسارع معدلات الهجرة إلى المدن. الهجرة من الريف إلى المدن في تزايد. يسكن الآن 56% من السكان في المدن، ومن المتوقع أن تصل هذه النسبة إلى 68% في عام 2050. هذه الاتجاهات أو ما هي بالإنجليزي الترندز ستؤثر حتماً على تزايد الطلب على موارد المياه والطاقة والغذاء. أعداد سكان متزايدة، زيادة الهجرة للحضر، هجرة الريف الذي يوفر الغذاء لنا، فكلها تعمل على تزايد الطلب على هذه الموارد الأساسية. ومن هنا نحن نشهد مستويات متدنية من الأمن المائي والغذائي وأمن الطاقة في المنطقة العربية. فبالنسبة لقطاع الطاقة، نصف دول المنطقة هي تحت خط الفقر المائي. تعتبر أيضا المنطقة العربية المستورد الأكبر للقمح في العالم، وبالرغم من وجود 43% من احتياطي النفط في العالم، إلا أن 35 مليون نسمة لا تصلهم خدمات الكهرباء. هذا من ناحية الطلب. أما من ناحية العرض فهناك تناقص أيضا في كميات المياه المتوفرة تبعاً لآثار تغير المناخ وما يستتبعه من انخفاض مستوى هطول الأمطار وارتفاع درجات الحرارة. أيضاً العنصر المؤثر على توفير المياه هو 60% من الموارد المائية تقع من خارج المنطقة العربية. وبالأمس استمعنا دكتور خالد أبو زيد وغيرهم من الخبراء عن تأثير هذا المحدد لتوفر المياه في المنطقة. وبالنسبة لأمن الطاقة فإنه على الرغم أيضا من إمكانيات الهائلة للطاقة المتجددة إلا أن المنطقة لا زالت تعتمد على الوقود الأحفوري مع محدودية دور الطاقة المتجددة. بالنسبة للمدن ودورها في أيضا تحقيق أمن المياه والطاقة والغذاء موضوع اليوم، فيمكن القول أن الممارسات أو السياسات الحضرية تساهم أيضا في زيادة فجوة أمن المياه والطاقة والغذاء. فكما نرى في مبانينا استهلاك الطاقة غير المتجددة بشكل كبير وشكل غير رشيد، ويساعد في هذا الاستهلاك دعم الطاقة، فتسعير الطاقة بدعم الطاقة من الحكومات أيضا يشجع المواطنين على استخدام هذه الطاقة، وإن كانت الدول المنطقة كلها بصدد ترشيد الدعم أو رفع الدعم عن الطاقة تدريجياً. أيضاً بالنسبة للمياه نشهد سلوكيات غير رشيدة لاستخدام المياه، طبعاً لأن أسعار المياه لا تعكس الكلفة الحقيقية لهذا المورد الأساسي. ونرى ملاعب الجولف والمناطق الخضراء الواسعة في المجتمعات العمرانية الجديدة التي نراها في القاهرة بالذات، المناطق الجديدة، فهذا محدد مهم لبناء المدن وكيف نخطط لمدننا الجديدة ومن أين نأتي بالمياه لري هذه المسطحات الخضراء. أيضاً مع المحدد الثالث اللي هو الزحف العمراني كما قلت من الأراضي الزراعية على الأراضي الزراعية مع تزايد أعداد السكان وهجرة السكان من الريف إلى المدن. فما هو المطلوب؟ المطلوب هو سياسات مبتكرة وغير تقليدية للحفاظ على الموارد. سياسات غير تقليدية تعمل على تصميم حلول مستدامة للتنمية الحضرية، أن نأخذ بالاعتبار الاعتمادات المتبادلة بين تحقيق أمن المياه والطاقة والغذاء، وهو ما نطلق عليه التكامل الأفقي. ما هي تأثيرات سياسات المياه على الطاقة؟ ما هي تأثير سياسات الطاقة على الغذاء وعلى المياه أيضاً؟ والعمل بناء على فهم هذه الترابطات بين القطاعات الثلاث، والتحول من التفكير القطاعي إلى الحلول المعتمدة على منظور تكاملي شامل مع تطوير السياسات والإجراءات القطاعية والهياكل المؤسسية المنفصلة أو التكامل الرأسي. عندما نقول تكامل قطاعات الزراعة مع المياه مع الطاقة، نحن نتحدث عن وزارات لها كيانات منفصلة تعتمد على سياساتها الخاصة. كيف يمكن التنسيق وتشجيع التكامل بين هذه المؤسسات المختلفة هو تحدي كبير بالفعل، إلا أن المنطقة العربية بصدد تبني جدي وفاعل لسياسات أو لنهج الترابط في المنطقة. ما زال الطريق طويلا، لكن هناك بداية لمتخذي القرار للوعي وفهم هذه الترابطات وأهميتها في اتخاذ القرار. هناك عدة مداخل لتحقيق الترابط الحضري، منها استخدام الطاقة الشمسية في الإضاءة والتدفئة، كفاءة استخدام الطاقة في المباني، ونحن نرى مباني كثيرة يتم استخدام الطاقة المتجددة أو الطاقة الشمسية فيها في توفير الإضاءة وفي التدفئة أيضاً مع ترشيد استخدام الطاقة. أيضاً الزراعة الحضرية أو الأربن أجريكلتشر وزراعة الأسطح وزراعة نباتات ذات استهلاك قليل المياه. كلنا شهد سلاسل الإمداد الغذائي في ظل جائحة كورونا وصعوبة توريد الموارد الغذائية من الريف إلى المدن، فمن المتوقع أن يتزايد الاعتماد على الزراعات الحضرية في المنطقة، سواء على مستوى البيوت الخاصة أو على مستوى المجاورات السكنية أو على مستوى المدن أيضا. فهو اتجاه جديد يمكن أن تساهم فيه التقنيات الحديثة التي نطلق عليها الزراعة المائية أو الهيدروبونيكس. ممكن استخدام الماء من دون تربة لهذه الزراعات، كلها أساليب ستساعد حتما في توفير الغذاء للمدن وتقليل الفجوة الأمن الغذائي. أيضا من المداخل لتحقيق الترابط الحضري دورة المياه المغلقة أو الكلوزد لوب نقول عليها في المياه، إعادة استخدام المياه العادمة، وهي لا توفر فقط المياه للزراعة إلا أنها ممكن من خلالها أيضا توليد الطاقة وإنتاج الأسمدة والمبيدات الحيوية. فهو توجه أيضا حديث وفي المنطقة، لكنه على المستوى العالمي يتم تبنيه، ولا مفر من هذا التوجه، لأنه هو المورد الوحيد الذي يتزايد مع زيادة أعداد السكان. مع زيادة أعداد السكان تزيد المياه الصرف الصحي من المدن التي يمكن استخدامها في الزراعة، والتي يمكن من خلال ذلك تقنين المخصصات المائية للزراعة لاستخدامات مياه الشرب والصناعات وقطاع الصناعة. هذا الشكل أمامكم هو للمصادر الجديدة لتوفير المياه في 2050 من البنك الدولي. إحنا نعرف أن الاستهلاك الأكبر للمياه في المنطقة هي في القطاع الزراعي حوالي 70%، وفي دول أكثر من 70% القطاع الزراعي. هذا الجدول يشير أن إدارة الطلب على المياه في قطاع الزراعة يمكنه أن يوفر المياه بما يساوي ما توفره تحلية المياه في 2050. ما معنى هذا الكلام؟ معناه أن لو وفرنا أو قننا أو خفضنا استهلاك المياه في قطاع الزراعة يمكن أن يكون بديل على تحلية المياه التي ستستلزم تكاليف مالية باهظة من الطاقة. وأيضاً زي كما ذكرت يتم ترويج أو تحويل أو استخدام هذه الموارد المائية في قطاعات أخرى غير قطاع الزراعة اللي ممكن استخدام فيها إعادة تدبير مياه الصرف الصحي. أحب أشير إلى مشروع يتم إعداده حالياً من قبل المعهد الدولي لإدارة المياه، مشروع بعنوان إعادة الاستخدام الآمن للمياه العادمة في الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا. هدف المشروع هو إعادة استخدام المياه العادمة في قطاع الزراعة وتوفير المياه في قطاعات أخرى، أو ما نطلق عليه المحاسبة المائية، وتحديد الابتكارات الملائمة في هذا المجال. المخرجات الأساسية لهذا المشروع هي إصدار كتاب مرجعي حول إعادة الاستخدام الآمن للمياه في الشرق الأوسط وشمال إفريقيا. هذا الكتاب المرجعي سيكون الأول من نوعه خاص بالمنطقة، سيتم تناول فيه ما هي التشريعات والتشريعات والقوانين على مستوى المنطقة التي يتوجب إعادة النظر بها من أجل تشجيع إعادة استخدام المياه العادمة. أيضاً السياسات وبالذات سياسة الدعم، وكيف يمكن أن يتم إعادة النظر في الدعم للمياه وللطاقة بحيث يتم الترويج لمشروعات إعادة استخدام الآمن للمياه العادمة. أيضاً نظم التمويل المبتكرة وكيف يمكن إشراك القطاع الخاص الذي يمكن أن يكون له دور كبير في تمويل هذه المشروعات. المشاركة المجتمعية والقبول المجتمعي لموضوع إعادة استخدام المياه المعالجة. وأيضاً هناك جانب تقني، ما هي المعايير استخدام المياه المعالجة من خلال قياسات حقلية يتم القيام بها في 3 مدن أو 3 دول، هي لبنان والأردن ومصر، بالتعاون مع شركاء رئيسيين في المنطقة مثل شركاء على مستوى المنطقة، شركاء إقليميين مثل المجلس العربي للمياه وأكوا، أيضاً شركاء محليين مثل الجمعية العلمية الملكية في الأردن ومعهد بحوث الزراعية في لبنان. والمشروع هو بتمويل من وكالة التنمية السويدية.
Dr. Nisreen? Just 30 seconds left, I'm sorry.
I'm just 30 seconds. المهم ما يميز هذا المشروع هو التواصل مع أصحاب المصلحة من متخذي القرار، من رؤساء المدن والبلديات، من المزارعين أيضا، للتواصل إلى أفضل نموذج لاستخدام المياه المعالجة. هو من خلال آليات مختلفة لهذا التواصل والمشاركة المجتمعية. أخيرا يمكن القول أن تفعيل دور المدن في المساهمة في أمن المياه والطاقة والغذاء يمكن أن يكون من خلال تحقيق مستويات أعلى من اللامركزية ودعم المدن والبلديات في اتخاذ القرار وتوفير التمويل اللازم لتنفيذ هذه المشروعات، التنسيق بين المدن والوزارات والمؤسسات المركزية، لأنه بالإضافة للتنسيق بين القطاعات على المستوى الأفقي هناك ضرورة تنسيق بين المدن وبين الوزارات، تشجيع القطاع الخاص كما قلت للقيام بهذه المشروعات، وتعزيز قدرات رؤساء البلديات والمدن لاقتراح مشروعات تحقق هذا الترابط والتواصل مع مصادر التمويل الممكنة، وأيضاً استنباط دروس مستفادة من دول أخرى حققت نجاحات في مشروعات الترابط. وأشير هنا إلى منطقة وسط آسيا التي بالفعل حققت طفرة في تحقيق الأمن المائي من خلال إعادة استخدام المياه المعالجة، لكن هناك يتم الفصل بين المياه الرمادية والمياه السوداء من المنبع، وهو شيء طبعا يعني صعب في المنطقة إلا أنه يمكن في المدن الجديدة. هذا ما لدي قوله وشكرا لكم.
شكرا جزيلا دكتور نسرين. Thank you very much. Just very quickly for Dr. Nikos, a very short, not very fair summary. I will just say that Dr. Nisreen highlighted the importance of water, energy, food nexus, and the importance of the link between them, and that local governments have to think in terms of policy with regards to this, and that there are different solutions that can be implemented, from urban agriculture, roof agriculture, the usage of solar energy to have electricity within households, and for also air conditioning and heating. That also we should empower local governments, local cities to implement this, and that a clear understanding of the link, of the nexus, is very important for this success. Of course, this is a very short, brief summary with no way fair to what Dr. Nisreen shared. So hopefully after this presentation, Dr. Nisreen can share with you the actual English version that she had initially, if you would like to have further.
Sure, with pleasure, with pleasure.
Thank you,
it's originally in English. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And it's in complete accordance to my last, let's say, slides about the relation between the effective governance and also the technological solutions that can be used in smart cities. So
yeah,
I'd also like to have the English version to follow up after the session. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. And I will be translating if there is any question directed to you, and also other questions just for general information that are being received in Arabic. With no further ado, I will pass the floor to my dear friend Munir, who will give us the last presentation with regards to case studies. Thank you very much. We cannot hear you, Dr. Munir. I think it might be an issue of the headphones. We cannot hear you. We see that your microphone is unmuted, but still we cannot hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now it works. Thanks.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. All right, let me just proceed with sharing the screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, thanks a lot to the organizing team for giving me this opportunity, as well as putting together this great series of different talks on many important topics that our world is facing. So again, thanks a lot for that. I'm also going to build up upon what my colleagues Dr. Nasreen and Dr. Nikos presented, but the core of my presentation is really focused on giving a high level overview about 2 case studies in the Middle East, mainly for like Dubai, who is an example of like, let's say, a mature, relatively mature smart city in the region, as well as Riyadh city, which I believe, in my opinion, is a city to keep an eye out in the region, given that it has some very interesting directions and strategies. So that's really the purpose of my presentation. So I guess we'll start off with some trends going on with smart cities. According to one study, globally, the smart city transformation is expected to trigger investments of about $2.6 trillion by 2025. So that's a huge number. And most of it is mainly like currently, if you look at the total investments in smart cities, it's mostly happening in the more developed countries, particularly in North America and maybe Europe. However, the growth will be mostly seen in more developing countries. So more quantitatively, this growth over the next 5 years is about 17% year on year, which is again a huge amount. Of course, it's accelerating as time goes by. If we look at some regional implications, Asia Pacific region is the one that's fastest growing, and that's due to factors such as rapid growth in population. So when you have an increase in population, that's usually coincides with urbanization. So as more people move into cities, then I believe local governments and city governments then feel the need to invest in smart city technologies. In addition to that, we have increasing economic development, and that's particularly seen when it comes to China, who I guess maybe for the past 10 or so years has really thrived economically. And another important factor that's really driving this growth is the rapid pace of technological advancement, which I believe Dr. Nikos touched upon. Moving on to the Middle East, so specifically the smart city market is set to double by 2022. So definitely it is a very exciting time to work in the field of smart cities in the Middle Eastern region. And again, this is because these are developing countries who today most of the cities are somewhat basic. So the shift to smart cities is easily, let's say, these cities can easily reap the benefits very quickly, given that today they're not that sophisticated and smart. According to the IMD Smart City 2019 Index, which ranks about 101 cities in the world based on their smart city characteristics, in the Middle East you have Dubai and Abu Dhabi who are leading. So Dubai is ranked number 45, Abu Dhabi is 56. And I believe that there's also 2 other cities that are also ranked. I believe Riyadh is somewhere in the 70s, as well as Rabat, which is in 101. Okay. So when we think about some of the critical drivers, technological and financial developments that are really driving this global smart city growth, there are 6 main ones. So the first one is public-private partnerships. This is really important because, again, as my colleague Dr. Nikos mentioned, there's a huge challenge with funding when it comes to implementing these solutions. So that's where the need for effective mechanisms for the private sector to engage with the public sector. This is really key to really enable the smart city transformation. The second thing is development in emerging technologies. So we've got emerging technologies such as blockchain, electric vehicles, Internet of Things. These technologies are rapidly advancing, and as they continue to advance, the benefits that they can bring are much more, let's say, tangible and higher. So that really makes the case for investing in smart cities much higher. The third key factor is expanding ICT infrastructure. So today in most cities in the Middle East, we have 4G. 5G is also beginning to roll out in some cities. And that's also very critical because 5G has certain properties and characteristics which really, again, allows us to create socioeconomic values, because 5G has characteristics such as, you're able to connect much more sensors. It's able to store a lot of data and communicate more data. The latency, so the speed at which data is processed is much faster, and that effectively enables many more use cases that can create economic and social value for society. The fourth thing is also quite important, which is increased focus on cybersecurity. So one thing, maybe I would say maybe 5-10 years ago, there was a big risk of cybersecurity when it comes to rolling out smart cities, because when you have all the data of a city that's stored into the cloud, and you're exposing yourself to a threat of cyber attacks, and that's a really high risk that cities must consider, because imagine like a city being hacked and someone has control over all of the street lights in a city. That could cause a huge problem. So given that cybersecurity is becoming more of a hot topic, and the capabilities are increased, therefore there's more comfort by governments to roll out these different enabling infrastructure for smart cities. The fifth thing is cloud, edge, and fog computing. So again, this maybe ties a bit more to the infrastructure element, but the ability to store data on the cloud in a very effective way also enables many use cases. And this last thing is open data and big data analytics. So you have lots of different, today you have different means and tools that you can use in order to analyze the data that you have. You have lots of cities that are using artificial intelligence in order to process the large amount of data that they collect in order to help them make better decisions. So given that you have that, it's again really an important factor in driving smart city transformation. Okay. All right. So I want to talk about the case study of Dubai. So Dubai is an exciting example of smart cities in the Middle East because it's probably, I would believe, the first city in the Middle East to really announce that they have a smart city strategy. So that was announced in 2014, and basically it started off with a vision, and the vision of Dubai was why do they want to be a smart city? They set a vision. They want to be the happiest city on earth. So what does that mean? The key sort of principles, the guiding principles for their smart city strategy was that they wanted, like the Dubai experience to be seamless, as in everything is integrated with each other. They wanted the Dubai experience to be safe, so that they're able to anticipate risks and protect people and information. They want the city to run very efficiently, so use the city resources in a very optimized manner. And they also want it to be personalized, so they want to enrich the life and business experiences for all. And of course, lots of these also tie into their big focus on tourism. So not only do they want to make sure that the residents are having a high quality of living, but also with the personalization, they're also being able to make it more of a strong like place of attraction for visitors. Now, in addition to these, so once they start with the vision, they identified 6 key sort of pillars that they want to focus on, or objectives, if you want to say. So the first one is related to smart living. So what they want to do is they want to identify, what are the different initiatives or like solutions that they can propose that improve services and prepare the city for environmental and other challenges. One quick example of that, again, it was mentioned before, is using Internet of Things across the water and electricity infrastructure. So a very simple thing over here is, for example, the installation of water sensors across the main water network. This will, it's an example of, like, let's say, a smart city application. And the benefit of that is that the city is then able to detect leaks earlier and conserve water. Okay, Second thing is smart economy. So of course, given that Dubai is a regional hub for trade, finance, and tourism, they want to boost its global competitiveness. So they need to have initiatives that are focused on, boosting their position as a hub for trade, finance, and tourism. And one example of how they're doing that was launching a service where a business person is able to get an instant license using these digital services. So they do have a solution where it's like a one-stop shop where you go and then you apply for a business license and you get it on the spot. Third objective is centered around smart people. So they do realize that it's very important to promote digital literacy and empower residents to take advantage of services that are within the city. So one good example of that is definitely with a lot of their local governmental entities have smart applications. So I'll give you one example from the Dubai Health Authority. So they have a smartphone application which I used for the first time when I entered Dubai about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and they use that smart application for Dubai Health Authority to really publish my results of the PCR test when I entered Dubai. So basically, you take a test when you arrive at the airport, and then within 2 days you get the result through that smartphone application. So that's just one example of how they are really promoting and making sure that the residents are staying up to date with the latest technologies. Okay. The fourth objective is centered around smart mobility. Here, all the initiatives are centered around enabling individuals to move around quickly, easily, and safely. Here, there are some initiatives that Dubai has taken related to promoting the concept of shared transportation, such as they have, like the Road and Transport Authority of Dubai is promoting a couple of car share services. In addition to that, related to smart mobility is the adoption of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So nowadays, in most major malls or like city centers, you'll find a dedicated charging station for electric cars, and that is again feeds into their vision for smart mobility. The fifth key objective is around smart environment. So here the objective is really to reduce pollution to ensure sustainable development. One small initiative that they do in that regard is by deploying air quality sensors around the city, so that they always have a clear picture of the air quality within the city. And lastly, it's related to smart government. So here it's focused on providing efficient and user-friendly government services that emphasize digitization to enable a transition to cashless transactions and paperless services. So here, one example is a lot of the services that you would typically do maybe like 5-6 years ago, you would have to go in person to do. Now a lot of these services have been pushed to a digital platform. So you can do, so that way you're reducing the need to be physically present in order to get your work done. Okay. So moving on to the second case study, which I'd like to talk about is Riyadh. Although Riyadh, I wouldn't consider it to be very, very mature in terms of smart cities today, but I think it's definitely one, like a key city to look out for, because they have a vision to become the world's next leading smart city. And that's also in line with Vision 2030. Now, some key factors about why I think Riyadh's interesting and what, because I feel that they have a lot of, let's say, key success factors that will, really, that puts it on the right path of success. So the first thing is that the vision is there. So Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 has a key target to construct 3 cities that can gain position in the top ranked 100 cities in the world. So having that vision is always a very good start. Second point is related to the private sector. So Riyadh has the highest number of global 2,000 companies with local offices in the Middle East. So again, you have high presence of the top companies. So that really, the private sector presence is important. Third thing is,
I'm sorry, just in terms of time, okay. We are running out of time. If it's possible to
wrap up. Okay, sure. I'll go very quickly. So technology is, again, the key point here is one example is that Riyadh's one of the first cities to adopt 5G. Another important point, which again my colleagues touched upon, is local government empowerment. So I think almost a year ago they announced that they have a new royal commission for Riyadh city, which gives it authority to basically take control over all of Riyadh and without having to go through national government. And the third thing is they've already announced some projects related to sustainable urbanization. So what are some key takeaways here? Smart city transformations can only be successful if the public and the private sector play the right role. So just very quickly here, the public sector role in smart city transformation is that they need to be the ones that are purchasing services. They need to be co-investors and co-participants with the private sector. They need to regulate and protect public interest and oversee and facilitate smart infrastructure. Meanwhile, the private sector should continue to remain energized by the opportunities created by smart city initiatives. They must be the one who takes the initiative to develop and present these solutions. And lastly, they need to find out ways to creatively engage with the governments in more collaborative ways, such as sharing revenue, property, and risks with the government.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear Munir. As we are really pressured by time, I will just try to go through all of the questions, and please, if you have just a couple of minutes each to just go through the ones that you see relevant to you. And I'm sorry for the attendees, there are some questions that are about other things not related to the topic, either questions related to certificates or related to other topics. I will not mention them. I will focus now on the questions that are related to the topic of smart cities. So one of the questions that are probably in general is asking us, how do we imagine the Arab world and Arab cities in 30 or 50 years, probably after this implementation of Arab cities, smart cities? And also a question to Dr. Nusreen, do you think that the costs of water energy production are fair and rational in the light of administrative waste and the appointment of leaders who are less efficient in their interference in all of the subsidies? So this is mostly in terms of the political situation in the region with the implementation of smart cities. And another question is exactly how do we see the usage of energy in building? Mostly, I guess the question refers to green buildings and how this can help have an environmentally friendly building to consume less energy. Another question is with regards to information technology, specifically big data and blockchain, and how they can contribute to the creation of smart cities. I guess this has been touched on a little bit in our panel, but if any one of you wants to also further detail on this, this will also be interesting. Last question is not necessarily on smart cities, but it's with regards to one of the elements that can be used to also reach environmentally friendly environments in our region with the removal of subsidies on energy and water. How can this removal of subsidies of energy and water help preserve these resources? By the governments removing the subsidies, then probably the population will become more aware of the usage. I have more questions coming in, but unfortunately we don't have time. I will just give floor for reflection on these, and then if we have any further time from the moderators of the Arab Science Week, then we can go further on this. So maybe you can start with Dr. Nusreen on the question that was directly pointed to her. If you want me to repeat that, please let me know.
No, it's okay. بالنسبة للسؤال بخصوص تسعير المياه والطاقة فالتسعير المياه والطاقة يختلف بين دول المنطقة. بالنسبة لمنطقة المشرق تختلف عن منطقة المغرب العربي. في منطقة المشرق العربي هي لا تعكس التكلفة الحقيقية التي تضعها الدول في هذه الموارد الأساسية. ترشيد الاستخدام أو تسعير المياه سيقلل الاستخدام بالطبع. سيكون هناك ترشيد، لما يكون هناك تكلفة للمورد ستقنن استخدامه في ظل عدم وجود تكلفة عادلة طبعا الاستخدام يكون أكثر، ما الذي يدعو المزارعين لاستخدام المياه العادمة مع وجود دعم للمياه في قطاع الزراعة. ولكن الموضوع حساس لأنه له جوانب اجتماعية مهمة. المغرب العربي وما سبقونا، المغرب وتونس من الدول التي سبقتنا في تسعير المياه وفي هذه القضية، لكن برأيي المنطقة كلها ستتجه بصوب التسعير العادل لهذه الموارد لأنها عبء كبير على الدولة، ولتقنين الاستخدام. عندما يكون هناك سعر فسوف يكون مفهوم المواطن بتقنين هذا الاستخدام واستخدامه بشكل رشيد. أعتقد أني جاوبت على السؤالين، المياه والتكلفة وأيضا الدعم. أظن سؤالين في سؤال. بالنسبة للمباني والطاقة المستخدمة وكفاءة استخدام الطاقة، فمن يذهب منا للقاهرة التاريخية ولمنطقة شارع المعز ويرى المباني واستخدام المواد البيئية والحوائط الحاملة العريضة كلها تساعد على تقليل أو الحفظ الحرارة في المبنى وعدم الاحتياج للتكييف. المباني التاريخية القديمة عندما تدخل فيها يعني تلاحظ درجات الحرارة أقل ب4 درجات تقريبا أو 5 يمكن أكثر، من غير تكييف، من خلال وسائل التهوية والملقى في القديم. فلو رجعنا لتقنيات أسلوب البناء القديم التراثي لنا سنقوم بتخفيض تكلفة استهلاك الطاقة من دون الاحتياج أيضا لأي وسائل صناعية أو أيضا حتى للوقود أو الطاقة المتجددة. هناك وسائل لترشيد استهلاك الطاقة أو كفاءة الطاقة، وهناك أسلوب أيضا أساليب باستخدام الطاقة الشمسية بالذات في التدفئة.
I'm not sure if any of the other panelists wants to follow up on any of the other questions, or should I introduce another question to the panel? Let me just introduce another question. One of the attendees is asking, who should claim the biggest responsibility in developing smart cities? Would it be the governments or the industry?
Yeah, so I can take.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Nikas. Go ahead.
I guess I would just repeat what you also very nicely presented. It's a shared, let's say, responsibility. Both public and private sector have to be in, let's say, in collaboration in order to make the required, let's say, investments and carry out these multifaceted and very complicated projects to develop the required infrastructure and let's say cultivate, let's say, the way for new services. And I think this also is related to a question that I saw about the actual infrastructure for 5G. I saw a question about Egypt talking about the networks, let's say, etc. I agree, we have to have a very good network infrastructure in order to respond to the different applications, smart city, let's say, applications and their requirements. So I guess it's a matter of, you know, a joint activity and a joint, let's say, collaboration between the two sectors. But please, Munir, you can also follow up.
Yeah, no, agreed. And if we think about it, you know, the public sector, you know, what's their objective? Their responsibility is to improve the quality of life for the residents and the visitors. So they need to realize that smart city transformation will achieve that. But then the government doesn't know what solutions exist out there, and they don't know how to go about doing that. So that's where the private sector should come in and say, okay, you know, hold hands with the government and tell them, okay, this is what you need to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So yes, I mean, I agree with Dr. Nikos. It's a joint responsibility. You know, I would say 50-50.
If I may also add to the replies, I also saw a question. You talked about the green buildings and the energy efficiency in buildings. What I would like just to give as an idea to a solution, let's say, idea to the audience is what you can do in order to, let's say, have an efficient energy usage in a building and probably in a public or in a private, let's say, in a house. First of all, you have to have some sort of analysis and disaggregation of the actual sources of consumption, okay, for the actual causes of energy consumption, okay. And then by doing this sort of disaggregation, the next step would be to actually find the people or the users, the actual habits or the daily, let's say, activities of people that cause this energy cost. And then what can you do? One way would be to feed back to the actual user, to the actual persons, to change your habits, switch off the lights when you leave your office, or do something to, let's say, limit the energy cost, your energy cost per day. To do that, you need, first of all, as you see, to measure the actual energy. You have to allocate the actual energy sources and the sources of, let's say, the energy cost, and also to feed back to the user some sort of commands in order, let's say, to improve the energy efficiency of the building. That would be an idea, and that's what I've seen, let's say, in a project that I was involved in.
Thank you. I will just take two last questions. One question says, what would be the first step forward towards achieving smart cities in a structure, in a community where the concept is not yet being implemented? What would be the first step? The second question is, how would smart cities have an effect on social interaction between the people within the city? If there will be any difference in social interaction within a smart city and a city that we are living in.
Yeah, so for the first one, if I can take it, I think the first step is political will. So you must have, like the local government say that, okay, today I'm ready to explore and I'm ready to invest and look into the possibility of, transforming my city to become smart. Another maybe potential first step could be, for example, starting off like where the private sector comes in, like through a private developer, and they do like a pilot on a smaller scale to demonstrate to the government that, look at this, city and look how it's functioning. We have an example here in Dubai, not related to really smart cities, but like sustainable cities. So there is a development called the Sustainable City in Dubai, which is a small community, about 2,500 people. So it was, it's fully developed by the private sector, but definitely, after they did it successfully, their second project was a collaboration with a local governmental entity within Sharjah. So it could be, political will from the government, or it could be, private developers coming in and developing a proof of concept, and then, in order to sort of encourage the public sector to go ahead and invest in this transformation.
Thank you. I'm not sure if there's any last interaction, last ideas from our speakers before we finalize and close the session. We are 7 minutes above our scheduled time, so I don't want to cause any issues for the next panels. With that in mind, I would like to really thank everyone in this panel. I would like to thank, with order that I see in the video, to my left, Dr. Nikos, Dr. Nusreen, Dr. Ghada, and my friend Munir. Thank you very much, and thanks also to everyone who has been in the background helping in the Arab Science Weeks. Really, guys, you have been doing a great job in maintaining all of this interaction and information. Thanks a lot, and kudos to you, and best of luck with the rest. Thank you very much. Sorry for everyone whom I couldn't really answer. There are a lot of questions, but unfortunately the time is very tight. Some of the speakers have already shared their contact details. Please feel free to reach out to them. I already speak on their behalf about this. I'm sorry if you guys mind. Yeah, the session itself will be recorded and available on social media, so feel free to rewatch it, share it with your friends, and yeah, see you on the next one.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye all.
Bye-bye. I will pass now to my colleague Ala.
Yes. شكرا للسادة المتحدثين وأستاذ حمزة على إدارة الجلسة وإجابة الأسئلة. في تمام 3 بتوقيت المغرب، 4 بتوقيت مصر، و6 بتوقيت الإمارات موعد حديث الأستاذ محمد فهمي عن مستقبل العمل تحت مسار تطلعات تكنولوجية. Thank you. I'd like to thank all the speakers for your time, and thank you for sharing this valuable information with us and with the audience and attendees. Thank you, Dr. Hamza.